Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope wherever you are in the world, it's been a good day so far. Welcome to Chain Fusion Live. Today, we're going to do a quick audible. Originally, we had Bitfinity and Bioniq going with the two B projects on the internet computer. We're going to just do Bioniq today. We'll do Bitfinity in the very near future. But I'm excited to have Bob Bodley, CEO of Bioniq Marketplace, talk about ordinals. Yeah, Bob, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kyle. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I want to talk about, let's talk about making Bitcoin fun, because I feel like there's this new energy within ordinals, within runes, BRC20 kind of maybe as well, that like fun is kind of coming into Bitcoin. I know Bioniq's kind of like on the front edge of this. So let's just start with Bioniq Marketplace. Like walk us through what Bioniq is, how you guys have like pivoted like as a multi-chain platform, and give us all the details.
Yeah, so if you haven't been following along on the Bitcoin side over the last almost year and a half now, Bitcoin is for builders again. We have meta protocols on Bitcoin. We have sidechains building on Bitcoin. We have L2s trying to build on Bitcoin. We have other peer-to-peer protocols, and you put all of this together and you get this really robust ecosystem of builders that are starting to build on Bitcoin again. This all started with the ordinals protocol released by Casey Rodermore in January of 2023. That was specifically the 0.4.0 release of the ord client. That was like officially the mainnet. And since then, we've seen probably close to $3 billion in volume across ordinals and other meta protocols.
That's a billion with a B?
That is billion with a B. Yes, indeed. And so that's kind of one prong, I guess, that kind of explains the existence of Bioniq. The other one is the Internet Computer Protocol has started over the last, I don't know, year and a half to really maybe 2 years, maybe even more, started to add really interesting Bitcoin integration features into the protocol. So on ICP directly, you have this threshold ECDSA subnet. It's basically a threshold signature subnet. So you can request signatures for any ECDSA chain. This is, top of the line cryptography basically, and you can hold Bitcoin in an ICP smart contract. You can sign Bitcoin transactions from an ICP smart contract. It gives you a lot of flexibility, essentially the full programmability of ICP coupled with the security and decentralization of Bitcoin. And so, you have these developments happening on the ICP side as well. This is kind of like the second prong that's kind of pushing all of this forward, where it's just really, really easy to build Bitcoin apps on ICP. You have all of this really great, all of these great protocol primitives to build on. So if you take, this ICP prong and this ordinals Bitcoin prong and, swirl them together, you get Bioniq. Bioniq just made sense to build. With the innovations on the ICP side, the innovations happening on the Bitcoin side, it just made sense to build Bioniq.
I love it. I love it. If you're tuning in, first of all, drop some comments, especially if you're an ordinals collector already. Let us know what your collections are of choice. We'll go ahead and throw them on up. I do love ICP DGenX calling out BTC and ICP. It does feel like we have a pretty nice pairing here with those two chains. I love what Bioniq is doing. If you're here to hear about the glitch, I know a lot of the Sentinel fans are waiting on the glitch. Just hang around. That's coming soon. But let's jump in. So Bioniq obviously leveraging the Bitcoin integration on ICP. What kind of let's start with creators. Like from a creator standpoint, like what does this unlock? What is the value proposition for launching a collection on Bioniq as opposed to say some other competitor marketplace?
Yeah, if you think about Bioniq is probably the closest thing we have to a Bitcoin L2 ordinals marketplace. I'm hesitant to say that directly because you could debate the definitions of an L2. So I'll say Bionic is the closest thing that we have, perhaps. But you could imagine that with an L2 ordinals marketplace, you could imagine inscribing an ordinal on Bitcoin and bridging to the L2. You could also imagine minting a token on the L2 and then later inscribing to Bitcoin, and essentially just being free to move your asset back and forth. This is what we've done with the concept called reserved ordinals. Reserved ordinals is when you mint a token on the L2 that can then later go back to Bitcoin as a true ordinal or other assets. I mean, you can do this idea with other assets, fungible tokens, for example, as well. And so, from a creator perspective, our goal is to make it extremely easy for anyone to come and participate in this new Bitcoin economy. So, for creators, we want to make it super easy to just come in, drop your assets, do some kind of launch of sorts, and then over time think about how closely you want to be to Bitcoin and let creators make that decision. If they want to be very close to Bitcoin, we want to give them all the tools like our BitGen standard to be very basically minimize your footprint on Bitcoin from a bytes perspective, but also give them the flexibility of all the features of ordinals with their collection. So
Yeah, so I do love the flexibility between it's up to the creator, right? In terms of how close they want to be to ICP or how close to they want to use to Bitcoin in terms of, I guess, like the persona or like really the technology they want to use. You mentioned BitGen as a great example of like, and I've seen this in action. I've talked about this before. BitGen as just a way to just make it cheaper to launch a collection, right? Walk us through what BitGen is, how it, I would say not even, you don't have to go into details of like how technical it is, but like how do you reduce the cost of inscribing for a creator?
yeah, so the way BitGen works is it's essentially a recursive generative standard on ordinals. So what that means is you take all of your individual layers. So assume you have, a set of 100 or 200 layers that you're then going to kind of combine in some fashion to create your final supply of, whatever, 5,000, 10,000. The idea is you inscribe each layer separately. So you have all of your asset layers that are inscribed to Bitcoin, and then you can inscribe a JavaScript file. And that JavaScript file is essentially what each individual token will reference. The token will say, hey, I have these traits. It'll send them into the JavaScript file. The JavaScript file will then go and find all of the relevant layers and essentially build that inscription in real time. So rather than doing 10,000 tokens, you can just do your 200 layers. So best case scenario, it's about a 20x reduction in cost in terms of inscribing costs for a creator to do this BitGen option. And if you couple that with the reserved ordinals idea that we already talked about, it's even more. It's even more than 20x reduction in cost.
Does it do anything in terms of placing so obviously it reduces the cost of inscribing. Does it also kind of shift the responsibility? As in, like, my understanding is that if you're going to inscribe an entire collection onto Bitcoin, you pretty much have to put everything in the mempool at the same time. You're almost bidding against yourself with that big file size. Does BitGen and the reserved ordinals space out the way that inscriptions can happen? Because now you're inscribing one asset at a time. Does that make sense?
Not really. I mean, you have to. I mean, the mempool is going to be PvP, regardless of when you're inscribing. So usually, you just pick some nice evening or early morning U.S. time where the mempool is low, and then you get all your assets in. That is the inscribing tactic.
I love throwing stuff into the mempool at an extremely low rate and just see when it actually gets picked up.
If ever, yes.
If ever, yeah. So is that why, like, and this is no shade to ordinal collectors at all, but I have noticed that the quality, like the art quality, actually maybe the art resolution is lower for an ordinal than I would probably expect with like let's say like a Solana NFT or an ICP native NFT. Is that primarily because reducing the resolution makes it cheaper to inscribe to Bitcoin?
Yeah, being one of the specific advantages that ordinals have is all of the artwork is stored directly on chain.
Mhm.
This is something we're very familiar with on the ICP side because 100% on chain is kind of a motto or a slogan that we have over here. On Bitcoin, you store all of your image assets 100% on Bitcoin.
Mhm.
And so that means you have to pay the costs associated with that. A rough cost figure is probably something like, I don't know, $5 per kilobyte or something like that. $1 to $5 per kilobyte, depending on what the network fees are currently.
Mhm.
And so it might be the best implementation of pay once, store forever that we have in blockchain. I know we have other examples here, like Arweave has a perma storage solution
Mhm.
with different trade-offs to this specific ordinals image storage use case. But this is one of the key value propositions of ordinals is you're never going to have a broken image link because your image data is, hard coded into the Bitcoin blockchain. All of the Bitcoin full nodes are hosting all of everyone's ordinals. And so from that perspective, optimizing your assets to be inscribed to Bitcoin is extremely important. In fact, it's almost part of the art. Like it is an art to minimize file size. So we've seen really cool collections like On-Chain Monkey that programmatically generate 3D files just using code. So they use 3JS or they use P5JS and they programmatically generate their artwork because then you just have to inscribe the code. You don't actually have to inscribe the large 3D files.
Mm.
That's one snippet of innovation, but there's a whole I don't know. It's like a new genre almost of artwork where the code is the art in a lot of ways.
I mean that I guess new genre, but I feel like Andy Warhol obviously was really big on the process was the art, right? The way he created his art was the art itself, basically.
Yep.
So I don't know. I feel like this is just the 21st century version of that same mindset. So you mentioned cheaper, the BitGen standard reduces costs for creators. From a creator standpoint as well, is there other benefits to choosing either to launch on Bionic or to basically bring over their collection onto Bionic?
Yeah, so from a creator perspective, we're working on some good creator tooling right now that should make it really, really easy for people to come in and launch ordinals collections. So just from like a ease of use, from a programmability perspective, I think you can do a lot more. With auctions and collection offers, and then obviously you have the benefits of building on ICP. You have the low finality, 2 to 5 second finality. You have low fees. In our case, there are no fees to transfer reserved ordinals, and it's a 10 sat fee to transact CKBTC. And so you have kind of a low fee, faster, more trader friendly environment.
Mm.
And that applies on the creator side with what kinds of features that we can add to support creators. Maybe it's microtransactions in some kind of game environment with your ordinals. That's something that would be harder to do on Bitcoin directly.
Right.
Um, so yeah.
So the typical benefits of like an L2, quicker finality, lower transaction costs. I mean, those are almost like it's a offering from the creator. It's an offering to their collectors. Like, hey, here you can trade this a lot quicker, a lot easier. What about now? You kind of mentioned BRC20, obviously runes. I've heard you talk about in the past. Does Bionic plan on supporting those for creators as almost this pairing between a non-fungible and a fungible?
Yeah, definitely. I think that combining the unique aspects of non-fungible tokens with ordinals with fungible tokens like BRC20 or runes or tap or atomicals. There are a number of fungible token standards on Bitcoin right now, and I think combining them in interesting ways is kind of the key to having these kind of gamified ordinals. So because of the great primitives that you have on the ICP side with Bitcoin, you can hold any kind of Bitcoin native asset. whether it's an ordinal, whether it's a UTXO-based fungible token protocol like Runes, whether it's kind of a more hybrid account-based model like BRC20, you can hold any of those tokens directly in an ICP smart contract, which facilitates nice bridges. And so you can easily take your Bitcoin native assets, hold them in some kind of ICP smart contract, and then have really fast programmable assets on the other side, and you can essentially go back directly to Bitcoin L1 whenever you want.
Nice.
And so yeah, definitely I see us integrating, and we're already in the process here. There's just so much to build, and so little time to do it. But Runes bridging, BRC20 bridging, I think there's a lot of fun things we can do with fungible tokens in Bioniq.
Yeah, put the fun back in Fungible. We got a good question from Stan here. I'll pull it on up. Does Bioniq have a launchpad on ICP access? If not, why not? I'm assuming. So, do you guys have a launchpad?
We do have a creator submission form, and so you can submit a collection to launch on Bioniq directly. That's on the ordinal side. We are planning on adding ICP NFT access directly in Bioniq. Essentially, Bioniq will be a nice multi-chain marketplace where you'll be able to have kind of the ICP ecosystem in addition to the ordinals ecosystem. Yeah, definitely working on that. Again, I don't know how close it is. We've had a couple things kind of surge up in the priority list recently, and so we'll see how.
In the same way that an ordinals, a Bitcoin ordinals creator who maybe already launched their ordinal collection, they can bring that over into Bioniq. In the same way, an ICP creator who's already launched their collection on ICP, they can bring that into Bioniq. Or a third option is obviously if you haven't created your collection yet, just start with Bioniq. And to do that, how would somebody get started on Bioniq if you're a creator?
Yeah, so we have a creator submission form, and so you can essentially apply to be launched on the Bioniq launchpad. We are going through those a little bit slowly at the moment because we're working on some better launchpad tooling. It's just a little bit unique to launch these ordinals collections on ICP, a bit of technical work that has to be done, and so. Yeah, but definitely interested in working with creators to launch more collections on Bioniq. And one of the things I'll say is one of the things we're really striving toward is more of a decentralized, or I might say community-powered or community-fueled launchpad of sorts, where anyone can come in and say, "Hey, this is what I want to do," and then the community essentially votes on it. Each community member would have their, reputation or their voting power based on their Bioniq activity. And then you would be able to essentially screen for whatever you wanted as a community specifically. And so, pair really, really, really easy, really, really, really 3 reallys. It might not be 3 reallys, it might be fewer. Pair easy to use creator tooling with powerful community governance features, and I think you start to get to a more decentralized permissionless launchpad setup where now anyone can come in and can launch, and then the community can decide, well, yeah, we really love this, let's launch it, or no, we don't really want that, we don't want that on this platform, and then it never even gets minted as a collection. So we're still refining exactly what that looks like, but definitely excited to move more in the decentralized launchpad direction.
Okay. Yeah, I love. I'll ask this. I think you addressed this already, but M asks, "What's the speed difference in making changes to L2 reserved ordinal versus inscribing directly on Bitcoin?" I assume that's in the inscription. Is it so when you inscribe from a reserved ordinal, is there a speed difference at all, or how does that work?
Yeah, so inscribing is going to be inscribing. It doesn't matter where you inscribe from. It's a Bitcoin transaction. It requires paying Bitcoin fees, and it requires sitting in the Bitcoin mempool and getting mined in a block. So it doesn't matter where you are or what platform you're using. Inscribing to Bitcoin is inscribing to Bitcoin. In our case, with the reserved ordinal, it's much easier to create a reserved ordinal than it is to inscribe an ordinal. And this is why all of our launches through Bionic are reserved ordinals, because they're tokens living on a layer above Bitcoin, and those tokens can go back to Bitcoin whenever you want, essentially inscribing them back to Bitcoin. But you have the ease and the flexibility and the programmability of this other layer in order to facilitate much easier minting. So
Awesome.
minting a reserved ordinal is almost free. The costs included are so small that you could almost just say it's free, and you can do it almost instantly. Maybe 3 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds for finality. So much easier and faster to mint these reserved ordinals than to inscribe an ordinal directly to Bitcoin.
I see. So launch it quickly, and then it's the owner of the reserved ordinal who has the option to inscribe to Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I love the idea of like a reserved ordinal. I mean, you get the benefits of the ordinal in terms of you get all the benefits of like quicker transaction, faster, cheaper transactions, ability to do like auctions and programmable aspects. But then it's basically a right. Like you're buying the right to inscribe to Bitcoin at any time in the future that you choose to.
Yep.
And so and I've noticed on the marketplace, a lot of people have chosen to inscribe. So like one of those things that you guys have explored is, and you mentioned earlier the idea of like just community, like you've mentioned a few times, community building, community engagement, that kind of stuff. And one of the ways you've achieved that is through gamification. So I know a few months ago, I spent some time killing kittens on accident. I didn't want to. It's just the game was as a challenging game. I was trying to get my op kitten to level 21. That kind of kicked off this idea of gamified ordinals. Walk me through, just even high level, like how you think through the taking ordinals and actually creating games with them.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the ordinal space right now, most people just hold ordinals. That is the primary action that people take, is they buy ordinals and they sell ordinals, but mostly they just hold ordinals. And they have them in their wallet and they're just holding. And I think in many cases, people want to do more with their ordinals. And doing more with your ordinals is complicated. It's challenging. There are people that are, doing this on Bitcoin L1 directly, but generally it's expensive. It requires a lot of Bitcoin transactions. It's almost impossible to do in high fee environments due to the cost. And so, adding a layer like Bionic on ICP, and now you have this fast programmable layer where you can do more with your ordinals. And this is something that we really want to push forward, whether it's on the game side, whether it's on the DAO side, whether it's on let's see, is there another side to that? But generally, the idea is you can bridge your existing ordinals to Bionic, and then you can take advantage of the speed and programmability. So whether that's a game like a staking game, or whether that's just simply staking in and of itself, staking is fairly a complicated thing to do on Bitcoin L1. And it's especially when you start to fold in fungible tokens like BRC20 or runes as staking rewards. And then on the DAO side, think about like proposals, think about voting on proposals. All of that can happen on chain on ICP. And it's actually quite complicated to do that in a good way on Bitcoin L1. And so, combining all of these things together into a nice platform where you can gamify your ordinals feels really, really nice.
Love it. I love it. Good suggestion here. Can the deceased op kittens be burned with CKBTC? Somebody wants to clean up their wallet.
This has been a problem that needs to be solved. the dead kittens are, so for context, op kitten is a really fun leveling up ordinals collection where you start at level 1 or level 0 and there's a 16% chance that you won't make it to the next level. So I think if you go through all 21 levels, then it's like I don't know, like a 2% chance that you'll make it to level 21. And you learned about Bitland, which is kind of the Bitcoin improvement process, over the course of uh, the Opkitten levels. And so yeah, the RIP Opkittens are cluttering the floor, and there's a strong case that we should either burn them all or resurrect them in some fashion. So TBD on what we can do there.
I love the idea of Gen 2. Just you basically resurrect them all like Pet Cemetery style, and then they have some sort of weird quirk with them that shows that they're Gen 2. You mentioned you mentioned a lot of good use cases of, again, kind of going on this idea of like why somebody who may have already launched an ordinal collection should bring it over to Bioniq. You bring a lot of those tools that if you're part of like the ETH NFT community or the Solana NFT community, you'd be used to like the idea of like a DAO having ownership over the smart contract that controls the NFT collection, or maybe control over a treasury that was created at the mint, or a treasury that's been created off of royalties, maybe a treasury of additional NFTs. Now, but that's not possible, or at least it's not very feasible on the Bitcoin side of things. So Bioniq is essentially bringing that idea of like DAOs back to Bitcoin. Are you seeing like, is that kind of how you guys think about it? And are you seeing like people who are maybe interested in that idea?
Yeah, there are lots of people that are trying to do this on Bitcoin L1 directly. It's challenging to do, not impossible. But it does make sense to use some other kind of layer to do something like this, just because of the ease with which you can create proposals and voting infrastructure, and it can happen on a nice layer that's not Bitcoin L1. So yeah, I think there's a lot of interest in doing something like this, especially if you can leverage ICP to have front end websites or entire applications deployed entirely in DAO under the control of your DAO. Full stack DAO essentially.
Love it. And then you mentioned like gamification, and you and I have talked about this in the past about actually if you take any turn-based game, or even a what would you call, like a real-time game, there's certain actions that players take that can almost be like condensed into like these are different action types. I've seen Bioniq launch a like I don't know what you call it, like a user guide of like, or maybe a creator's guide of these are the 12 types of actions that a game would have, such as like steal, trade, level up, stake, that kind of stuff. Walk me through kind of like what are the like what type of games could somebody build with their ordinal collection if they wanted to?
Yeah, on the gamification side, our goal is we're building out something that I'm calling the levels protocol or the level standard. Essentially, it's a set of game mechanics that you can bake into your collection. This could include staking, it could include leveling up, it could include upgrading the image over time of your ordinal, it could include burning, it could include trading or swapping, or let's see, stealing. There's some interesting steal mechanics. And so the idea is that you can essentially take any of these individual game mechanics and combine them in interesting ways to make games with your ordinals. And that can happen. We're basically building a game engine. So we have a game engine. And so you take some kind of game schema. The game schema is going to define all of these different define all these different criteria, functionality for your game, all the game mechanics that you want, define the level structure. Like with the Op Kitten, we had some kind of level structure. With the Motoko Sentinels, we had a level structure. define any kind of like in-game tokens that you want, and then based on the schema, that can essentially just be sucked into our game engine and sucked into our game engine front end, and you have a fun playable game directly from this schema. The schema is like a game standard of sorts, and so you could really take, I think theoretically, take any game in existence, any board game, card game, idle game, incremental game, and you could reconstruct it in some fashion to use it on your ordinals in Bionic.
Mm. I love you and I, when we were at Bitcoin Renaissance, we ran into each other and we were talking about Age of Empires, which is a game that I have enough gray in my beard to remember very well. You have less gray hair, so I was surprised that you recognized the game. But like Age of Empires would be like one of those computer games. It's real time, and you had mentioned like, well, no, actually, I think you could recreate that game as an ordinals based card game, and that just got me kind of thinking like, oh, actually, the scope of what's possible for gamification is actually extremely broad, because you're absolutely right. You could build barracks and stables and housing and have a gamified way to do all that with a reserved ordinal, and then everything, all your assets could go back to Bitcoin. So
yeah, it's definitely not going to be real time like Age of Empires is. Like, click here, move my army, go and attack these people. But if you think about it from like an idle game or incremental game perspective, you could definitely pull off something like that. You could have a map, you could have locations, you can have locations for all of your troops, all of your different resources could have certain distances. You could move around this map. Moving around a map would require some kind of action, or it would take a longer time. So think about any game, but then force it to go in the idle incremental game genre, and then you could basically do that with your ordinals on Bionic. And the idea is that these are not games created by Bionic. This is like a creator could come up with this really cool idea, could come up with this game schema, and then they could come to Bionic and we would just suck it in, and it would be a fun playable game with their collection. So any creator could, any creator could come in and I mean, there's still work we need to do on the open source side, on the schema standard development side, but this is kind of the long-term goal.
I love this age of canisters. If you're a developer, start building this, and I will contribute however I can to help you launch Age of Canisters. I love that so much. Stan asked, are the Bionic NFTs fully on chain?
Yeah. So the way that you inscribe things to ordinals is you essentially take everything that you need in order to show your image, and you store it in a Bitcoin transaction and then reference it to a particular Satoshi. One Bitcoin is 100 million sats. And on the Bionic side, we have reserved ordinals. Reserved ordinals are off Bitcoin tokens that give the user the right to inscribe that image as part of a collection to Bitcoin. And so depending on which chain you're talking about, reserved ordinals are not on Bitcoin, but they are fully on chain on ICP. It's like a combination of Bitcoin and ICP. But the idea is that with the reserved ordinal collection, everything could eventually be on Bitcoin, fully on chain. So, for example, the Motoko Sentinels. Motoko Sentinels are off Bitcoin tokens that give the user the right to inscribe that particular Sentinel to Bitcoin. And right now, we have a couple that have finally been inscribed. And so those are fully on chain. All of the Motoko assets are on chain. All of the associated metadata that you need, like a collection JSON file and a collection JavaScript file, and then like a renderer JavaScript file, all of those are on Bitcoin. All of the layers are on Bitcoin. And now the tokens are slowly being inscribed to Bitcoin as users kind of progress through this Motoko Sentinels mission experience. They earn XP as well as runes. And then they inscribe to Bitcoin. And so the idea is, in the future, Motoko Sentinels will be a 100%, assuming all Motoko Sentinels get inscribed, will be a 100% on Bitcoin collection that can still interact on Bionic. as well.
So it's while they're not inscribed, it's still on chain, but it's just on the ICP chain. Once they're inscribed, they'll be on the Bitcoin chain, but still functionality within Bioniq, which is really awesome. Yeah, I actually looked it up this morning. There's 52. So let's go through actually like let's talk a little bit more detail about the Sentinels, because we talked about OpKitten being basically like the first introduction to the idea of like leveling up your ordinal or your reserved ordinal. Sentinels, I think, is like the next step. And I know, like you and I have talked about, hey, this is really an experiment to kind of show what's possible and hopefully get people thinking through different games or different ways to kind of interact with their ordinals. So walk me through, let's go from basically mint to now somebody's inscribing. We've got 52 inscriptions already. How are people getting to the ability to inscribe? Because I think that's kind of a fun aspect of Sentinels.
Yeah, so with the Motoko Sentinels, we wanted to create some kind of simple game experience. Think about it like a staking game or an idle game or an incremental game of some kind. But again, think very, very simple. Like, we're not building a massive multiplayer game here. This is a very simple game where you can take some actions, you can do some staking, you can earn some XP, you can level up and earn additional layers for your Motokos. So you start at the very beginning, you just have a single Motoko. It's a nice animated WebP file. So it's very, very efficient on the bytes perspective for inscribing to Bitcoin. 4-frame animation, and you just start with your Motoko and you can stake it on a mission. This is the lore behind this is the Motoko Sentinels are the protectors of their world, and so you need to send them on missions to essentially protect the Motoko world. And sending them on missions, there's a chance of success and a chance of failure. If they succeed, then they earn XP. XP is essentially just experience for these Motokos, and as you get more experience, you can level up your Motoko. First, you'll earn a background. You can see there, a few of these have backgrounds. These are level 2 Motokos. Then you can continue to level up to level 3 and level 4. Level 3 adds a front feature. Sometimes it's horns, sometimes it's a crown, sometimes it's little baby Motokos on the side. That one's my favorite. And then level 4 is the tail. So shooting off different things, but behind the Motoko. Which you'll be able to see here in a second. There are various tail up there in the top right. You can see, shooting off behind the Motoko. So that's essentially the phase 1 Motoko Sentinels game. You earn all of the layers, you get to level 4, and then you can inscribe your Motoko to Bitcoin, and that essentially completes phase 1 of the game. That's also the way to maximize your runes allocation. Your runes allocation will be dependent on XP, up to 2000 XP. And then there is a chance that your mission is not successful. If your mission is not successful, your Motoko comes back in a broken form and you have to repair it. You pay a small, I think it's 100 sat fee in order to repair your Motoko, and then you can send it on additional missions. So that's the gist of the game mechanics.
So this is so you can see on the I've turned on. I do love how these things are the traits are hidden unless the owner of the NFT has been upgraded. Sending their Motoko on missions and upgrading. Bioniq also created a little way to especially if you're searching through ones you want to purchase with specific attributes, you can turn that on. Turn on basically the show me everything, show me all the layers. And then right up here, you have this play, right? So play game 1, staking game 1. You can see all of those are needing some repair. I need to put them to work.
Yes, you do.
So walk me through then. So you mentioned a couple things, right? So with Sentinels, first of all, you have just a basic staking game to get yourself to level 4. At that point is when you can first inscribe to Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
And then once you inscribe to Bitcoin, so it's now your assets. Now your Sentinel is living forever on basically a blockchain that's going to be around long after every other blockchain has maybe gone away, perhaps. The forever, I call it the forever blockchain because it's Bitcoin's the OG, and it's got the best Lindy effect right now. So then once you inscribe, though, is the idea that now you've completed game one and you're ready for game two?
Yeah. So to qualify for the phase 2 Motoko game, you do have to reach level 4 and you do have to inscribe your Motoko. And so this is partly to incentivize inscribing Motokos. We really want to get as many of these on Bitcoin as possible. I want to make it a true 100% on Bitcoin collection. Obviously facilitated through this, staking game phase 1 plus, this mission experience. But yeah, then once you're inscribed, then we have phase 2 already in the works. We're really excited about all of the ideas going into phase 2.
How so? Will phase 2? I'm asking a little facetiously because I know the answers to these. I don't know how much you want to reveal about phase 2 or game 2, but will it be basically just another similar game to game 1 where you stake and wait to find out what happened, or is it going to be different?
Yeah, from a technical mechanics perspective, it will be a lot of the same kinds of things. You have your Motoko that has a specific status associated with it, and then you can do things with your Motoko, and then there are, some kind of result. In the phase 2 case, rather than just, sending your Motoko on missions and earning XP, your Motokos being level 4, they're now kind of ready to go out and fight some of the bigger enemies facing the Motoko universe. And so we're thinking about it more as a community-based, collaborative kind of boss battle game of sorts. Again, don't think massive multiplayer, anything like that. Think, I don't know what a good example is of like a community collaborative incremental game of sorts, but the idea is as a community you kind of work together individually but also kind of strategically to essentially defeat these bigger bosses in some kind of boss battle. And so yeah, lots of thinking going into how the Motokos can skill up, how they can kind of progress in order to beat bigger and better bosses. But yeah, that's kind of a sneak peek, perhaps,
I like
into.
I like the concept that game 1 was like kind of like boot camp or basic training. They basically started earning their equipment, right? They got their backgrounds, they got their tails, they got their whether it's the double mohawk or the horns or whatever they got their uniform basically. Now they're ready for battle. Game 2 is then okay. Now put that to use in the battle. Stan says Bob for president. So you got to, if you're running for president, Bob, you got elections in November, so you don't have much time to prepare yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Stan, for the vote of confidence. Lately, I've been getting a lot of people saying that ordinals or Bionic with our ordinal setup, we've had to do some things off chain because we just don't have on chain capabilities to do a lot of the ordinals things. And so a lot of people have been saying that we are more centralized than they would like, which currently you could argue is the case because of this tech side and the complexities involved. And so rather than me being president, I would actually much rather doing the exact opposite of that. Let's remove any control that I have whatsoever of Bionic or the Sentinels or other projects, and let's work towards this progressive decentralization future. I think if we can get to the point where the community is owning everything on the Bionic platform, I think that's the point we want to get to eventually. I saw a comment about Bionic SNS. For those that don't know, that's the service nervous system. And the idea with an SNS is you do a full decentralization event, essentially, where now you have token holders that can vote together to determine upgrades to front ends or back ends or APIs or other things. And we are definitely interested in this progressive decentralization idea. We're not there yet. I can candidly say we are not there yet, but uh, it is definitely something that we're working towards. And we want to get to the point where the community members, the people that are helping Bionic succeed, are the ones that will have the control to essentially, continue to push the platform forward.
So I'm just going to point out that politicians are very good at taking a comment or a question and pivoting it to a topic they want to talk about. You did that masterfully there. So you may have a career if you do want to get into the centralization of government.
Yeah, let's not go there.
The so before we leave Sentinels, well, we have one more question and comment I want to make, and then we still got the glitch to do. But the glitch is still coming. Before we get to that, though, you had mentioned the idea of like fungible tokens, and that as your Sentinel is playing game one and it's leveling up, and you're getting your way to 2,000 XP, that is actually earning tokens. So like walk me through like the kind of like the mindset. It's that, I mean, because you're bringing in this fungible idea into the ordinals as part of like the gameplay, right? So in like game two, will those fungible tokens be useful? Will there be burning mechanisms for them and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think the idea is for any project, I think it makes sense to have one singular, essentially fungible token, a tradable token of sorts. I view this as a utility token. This is an in-game token. The only way to earn this token is by playing the game. I think it's important to phrase it as a utility token, not just to phrase it or say that it's a utility token, but for it to actually be a utility token, because of the increasing complexity of regulation happening in the EU or in the United States, or other countries. And so a utility token, you can only earn it in the game. I mean, it's basically like points, except that it just so happens that it's interoperable in a way that you can own it and trade it if you would like. And so the idea with this fungible token is to build a nice tokenomics layer into the game. So essentially, you have inflationary mechanics and you have deflationary mechanics. The inflationary mechanics are come and play the game, get 2,000 XP and earn your initial allocation of this token. But then, actually giving meaning to the token, just like with any main currency in a game, you want to do things with your token. Maybe you want to get a boost to reduce your staking time. Maybe you want to, purchase some kind of secondary asset that can kind of skill up your Motoko in some fashion. I'm just spitballing ideas here. None of these are, like sneak peeks into things that we've already built. Maybe you want to buy another asset. Maybe Motoko Sentinels have a companion. I really like the mini Motokos on the side. Maybe you can get companion Motokos.
Yeah.
The Barry and Zelda, that always talks to you. Anyway, there are lots of ideas and ways for you to leverage this token in some fashion. Another option is you could just have it be some kind of meme token of sorts. I think that's a little bit less interesting, but the main point is there are lots of ways that we could go as a community with adding these kinds of tokens, runes, BRC20 or others, directly into this gamified ordinal experience.
I love it. I love the idea of like also again because I'm fascinated with the idea of like Bitcoin as the forever ledger. I think I've shared, maybe I haven't shared on this space yet, but like I've inscribed my wedding date into Bitcoin just because now it lives there forever. And there's just something about like that, like leaving my legacy kind of a thing. Like I know when I die, it's my wedding date will forever be on Bitcoin. And I like the idea of, like you said, with Sentinels Game 2 being this boss battle, or really any game, any ordinal collection that has a game, the idea of like being able to, let's say you have a specific battle in which there's one person who does legendarily good, and like you want to basically reward them by capturing the epicness of their battle on Bitcoin. You know, you can actually do that. You can give them an ordinal, like an ordinal trophy. You could maybe inscribe some text that says, you know, Sentinel 6745, you know, perform this incredible feat, and we shall ever forever remember him as, you know, for this feat. I don't know. There's so much that can be done with that idea of putting things on Bitcoin. Should we do the glitch now? Are we ready for the glitch?
Let's do the glitch. For those that don't know, the glitch is a unique one-of-one Motoko Sentinel. And it was too big to fit in a Bitcoin transaction, so we had to kind of do some optimization. Anyway, it ended up coming to Bitcoin after the initial launch, and so now we're airdropping this glitch to a lucky Motoko Sentinel holder. So we have, let's see, is there any precursor things we need to do? There is a chance that the Motoko is listed on the marketplace, I suppose.
The Motoko, the winning Motoko?
So the idea is the current owner at this very moment in time will receive the glitch. So even if it's on the marketplace, you can't snipe it because it's the current owner, and listing it, you still hold it. So it's the current owner at this very moment in time will receive the glitch. So for those that weren't involved in kind of hearing about this process, we have a black hold canister. It is a nice NFT lottery setup. Essentially, I mean, I call it the NFT lottery canister just because that's perfect. That describes perfectly its functionality. This is not any kind of lottery that we're doing, but we have a canister, and the canister essentially is black hold at this point, and it can only draw a single number and a single number only. You can verify the code, and there's actually an 8-hour delay in the draw. So you can't just like deploy the canister and redeploy the canister and repick the number and redeploy the canister and repick the number. You deploy once, and then you have an 8-hour period where you have to wait, and then it draws, and you can only do that single draw. So we deployed it. It was about 10 hours ago with an 8-hour wait. And now anyone can go and actually call this draw function. It's a public function. And when you click draw, it will pick a random number the first time. And then every subsequent time, it will just return that same number. So it's a single random draw. We get the randomness from the on-chain randomness on ICP. So this is what I would call like a provably fair and random draw, essentially. You can verify the code in the canister using, it's called a WASM module hash. So there's a way that you can verify that. And so now we can do the draw.
I'll just point out within ICP, and I feel like this kind of makes ICP really unique in our space, is that a lot of attention was put into just how do you do true randomness, which is actually very challenging from a mathematical point of view. But how do you accomplish true randomness? And so what Bob was just describing is just the type of thinking that goes into these type of you know, you would think like, oh, just do like a equals rand parentheses like in Excel, but it's actually a lot more troublesome than that. So and complete than that. So.
All right, so I just called the. Hold on, I'm just double checking a few things. I just called the draw random number in the canister. And so we got, essentially the on-chain randomness went in. We picked a random number from 0 to 9,999. That's the 10K supply. This will match the mint number actually displayed on the collection. It looks like The winning Motoko is number 2732. That's 2,732. And it looks like it was purchased 3 weeks ago. It was purchased, it looks like it was bought off the floor close to the launch time. So yeah, that is the winning Motoko. We have the owner here, and their address. They will be the ones that will get the glitch Motoko.
So
The glitch, yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
to say, so if you were buying Sentinels near the floor, right around mint, maybe a little bit after mint, then that's you should be feeling much better right now, right?
Yeah, so everyone can go in and check your Motokos. 2732 is the winner. The glitch is going to be special in a couple of other ways. I mean, it is the glitch after all. So not only will we be airdropping it, but the glitch is interesting and special in some other fashions. And so, yeah, huge congrats to the glitch owner. And yeah, we'll make sure that everyone's aware of the final glitch transfer process and that it ends up in that wallet. So congrats.
Awesome. That is I'm laughing. Everyone's saying good luck, and now some congrats. There's here you go. Stan's wondering. So what's the suggested option? Oh, by the way, congrats to whoever wins the glitch, and I hope I don't find it near the floor anytime soon. If it does, I'm really excited to snipe it if I can. So, but what's the suggested option to follow Bioniq's feats? So where should people be following Bioniq?
Yeah, you can follow me. I do a lot of tweeting about Bioniq. That's just at Bob Bodley on Twitter. But the best one is probably just follow at Bioniq Market. A few people mentioned that the Bioniq Market Twitter account has been a little lackluster lately, and that criticism is very appropriate. And so we're going to start ramping up efforts on the Bioniq Market Twitter account. You should see regular updates there, regular collaborations happening through there, and yeah, those are the two best places to keep up to date.
I'll give you let me pull. So yeah, so grab those. So you got at Bob Bodley, you got at Bioniq Market. Keep up to date. I mean, just across the board, right? So if you're big into Sentinels, you should see some updates from Bioniq there. Keep up to date in terms of new collections launching on Bioniq. Keep up to date on past collections that launched. Let's go to Adi has some words of encouragement for you guys, some kudos.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We're definitely not there yet. Still missing some very kind of core feature parity features on the Bioniq side, and we are working very hard to make it happen. We're just bringing on another engineer today. Today's his first day, so hoping that can help accelerate our development process. I know we have a lot of users with a lot of feature requests still in the pipeline, but we're moving as quickly as we can, trying to essentially build a platform that everyone loves and wants to use.
Do you foresee, so because we talked about the gamification, we talked about the benefits to creators where they can, they can do things on Bioniq that they wouldn't be able to do on just the straight L1. Do you kind of like foresee Bioniq, the types of collections launching? Do you see it more as like people who are interested in the gamification, people who are interested in DAOs, people who might be interested in more like high-end artwork that might take use of BitGen as a way to make that cheaper on Bitcoin? I don't know, like what is your kind of your gut feeling in terms of what type of creator is going to be attracted, or maybe what kind of creator you would like to attract?
Creators that want to do more with their collection, do more in any fashion of the sense, do more. If you're content to launch a unique, interesting, innovatively small, bite-sized collection directly to Bitcoin, where people can hold and just hold for a long time, then that's perfectly fine. You know, go launch on ordinals directly. If you want to do anything on top of that with your collection, then come do it on Bionic. If you want to do staking, if you want to incorporate fungible tokens, if you want to do DAO-based voting, if you want to, you know, do some kind of burn mechanic, if you want to do some kind of trading, if you want to do trading cards or a game or anything, it's, you know, if you want to do more with your ordinals, then you have to do it on a more programmable platform. And Bionic is a great choice for that.
I think you just found a great tagline for Bionic if you didn't have one before. But the place to do more with ordinals.
Yeah.
Love it. Bob, I feel like we touched a lot. Is there anything we missed? Anything you want to circle back to?
I don't think so. I mean, we've covered, you know, a wide spectrum of topics. You know, we got the glitch done in a really fantastic, provably fair and random way. There was a surprising amount of work in pulling that off. I mean, it was super easy to just, you know, click the button and get the winner. But the fact that even right now, like the canister, we'll make all of these details public. The canister is open source. The code is available. You can look at the canister. You can verify that the WASM hashes match. Like you can go back in time and you can recreate essentially this the randomness that happened here. So
I hope if you're a creator and you're listening to what Bob says, you should recognize that these are the type of tools you'll have access to on Bionic, right? These kind of things to provably prove, you know, that, you know, to provably airdrop something in a very random, in a provably random methodology. So,
yeah. If a creator wants to come in and do some airdrop to existing holders, or they want to do, you know, some kind of one-of-one benefit to their holders, or all of this is, you know, possible through all of the tooling that we're building. Yep.
I think and sums it up pretty well. We are so early. I mean, I absolutely just love the idea of just bringing all this utility into ordinals, making it fun, bringing additional tooling so that people can, you know, like the fact that ordinals launched just a year ago, and already now we have an L2 capable of adding the kind of tooling that you would expect from like Ethereum or Solana, maybe even tooling beyond that. I just kind of love how fast you guys have executed on it. Well,
Yeah.
Bob, I appreciate your time. Any last words you want to leave everyone on?
Definitely go check out the Motoko Sentinels. If nothing else, just for the experience, for the gamified ordinals experience. And, you know, come take a look at Bionic, you know, with CKBTC, with faster transactions. You know, from a trading perspective, it's something you kind of just have to experience, you know, compared to the existing L1 ordinals marketplace trading experiences. But yeah, I would also love to hear from anyone with thoughts or perspectives around this community fueled launchpad of sorts. You know, would love to hear of people who have worked on something like this prior, or, you know, creators interested in some kind of functionality like that. Because we want to involve you in the process. We want to build something that people love, and, you know, would love to have feedback there.
Awesome. Yeah, I would just echo the try out the Sentinels. I feel like so game one is kind of, I mean, it's a real simple design, but people seem to really love it. Like I think it kind of proves out this thesis that people want to engage with their NFTs, with their ordinals, and even just in a very simple staking game, the people have kind of, the feedback I've seen, at least on X, on Discord, has been like, hey, this is unique, and they can start to see maybe the future, um, uh, uh, start to see the future kind of taking shape and form. So echo that. And anyways, Bob, I want to say thank you so much for your time. Let's do this again. Maybe when a couple more games have launched and people can start to see like, oh wow, this is this really is expanding. And I want to thank the viewers as well for your time. Thank you to all the commenters. And just a plug for next week. So next week we're going to go back in time. We're going to do an X space the old-fashioned way. And so you'll see more information on that. That's going to be about Bitcoin venture capitalism. And so that'll be a really interesting topic to talk about. So mark your calendars for next Monday. Again, thank you everyone for your time. And Bob, get back to work because there's a lot to do.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.